Do you have a favorite Lady Gaga or Madonna song?
Ooh, Like a Prayer and,
Mhm.
Lady Gaga. I love every Lady Gaga song.
Do
They're all
you?
well, they're all so fun and, like, boppy, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know if I can pick a favorite.
My favorite Gaga, I'm pretty sure is Bad Romance.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
that's a
sure.
really
Yeah.
good one.
That I
Yeah.
think that's my favorite. And my favorite Madonna, I think I agree with you. Like a Prayer.
Yeah, that's a good one. Or
It's
maybe
so
that
good.
TikTok trend has now just, like,
Seeped in.
impregnated into my brain, yeah, and I can't get it out because
Yeah.
that trend is, like, my favorite trend ever, so.
Yeah. I hear your voice and like the
Yes.
choir. Hello and welcome to Two Queens, Two Crowns. I'm your host, KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, and content creator.
And I'm Erica Manganelli, pop culture humorist and content creator.
And today on the show, we are talking about Lady Gaga and Madonna. I'm quite excited about this.
Me too. I was like not expecting it. Was there something that happened in the media this week that I missed, or you just picked those two?
No, nothing happened this week for the two of them. They've always been on my radar as a potential
Mhm.
episode, but I kind of wasn't sure when to bring it out. And I felt like, you know
Mhm.
what? Now feels like a good time. Why not?
Yeah, I mean they're always pitted against each other, and I think Lady Gaga like hates it.
I think they I think they both don't feel great about it, but
Mhm.
it's been interesting going back and reading some of the things that they have both said about the comparisons and about
Mhm.
the feud has been quite interesting. There's some stuff I didn't remember or maybe never even realized. So, yeah, this one's going to be a doozy, but I like them both a
Me
lot. I
too.
think they've both contributed so much to pop music and, just the entertainment industry in general.
Yeah.
So, as always, I'm excited to get into it right after this. Folks, the end of the year is coming up. And if you're looking to get a gift for yourself, I would get yourself a subscription to our Patreon because our
Mhm.
bonus episodes, they're so much fun. Are they not fun, Erica?
They are. Gift yourself to us for Christmas. Put us under your tree.
Put us under your tree. It's $5 a month. You get bonus content every single month from your faves. We try to keep it light. We try to keep it cute, fun, and humorous. For our final bonus episode of the year, we're definitely going to do something either holiday themed or, like counting down through the year themed. It's going
Ooh,
to be
that sounds
classic.
fun.
It's going to be great. So gift yourself the gift of KJ and Erica and Two Queens, Two Crowns. Go to patreon.com/. Two Queens, Two Crowns. All right, let's get back to the show. So, to start off, what do you know about the so called feud between Lady Gaga and Madonna?
I don't know if I know specifically anything about them feuding. I know that they've been compared a lot because they have like similar styles for many,
Mm-hmm.
many years. I
Mm-hmm.
seen an interview with Lady Gaga where she kind of was like trying to shut that down. Like, we are not the same.
Yeah.
Stop saying that we are. And that's pretty much all I know about it. You said you read something about Madonna responding to it. I've never seen Madonna's response to it, so I can't wait to hear this. Because Madonna
Yeah.
hits hard when she hits.
Yeah, Madonna has had some thoughts, which, yeah, I hadn't realized or kind of passed me by. So to dive in, first, let me just talk about kind of how these two start to be in conversation with one another. And
Mhm.
it really starts pretty much as soon as Gaga hits the scene. So she debuted in 2008 when she was 22 years old with her album The Fame, and it came out in '08, then was re-released as The Fame Monster about a year and a half later, and it had 5 hit singles, so one of which we talked about, Bad Romance,
Yep.
her first single, Just Dance. Then she also had Poker
Good one.
Face, Telephone, and Alejandro, all of which were
Mhm.
big hits.
All hits then and all hits right now if you would put them on the radio.
Right now,
Still, they
right
held the test of time. Mhm.
100%. You put on Poker Face right now, everybody's dancing, everybody's bopping.
Yeah, and we all know the words.
And we know all the words.
Mm.
And you know what else I will say about Gaga, to us both all knowing the words, is she enunciate, because these pop girls today, some of them,
Yes.
what are they saying, Erica? Okay.
They're like mumbling through everything.
Truly mumbling,
Mhm.
or doing it in such a breathy, airy
Mhm.
tone that I'm like, girl,
I'm a
what? What was
Starbucks lover. You remember that?
I do remember that, but Taylor to me actually does enunciate. Do you know
She does.
do you know how I really struggled with for a minute was Sabrina Carpenter? Like her
Yeah.
songs, she has some called, I think called Feather, and I saw her perform it on Saturday Night Live. I was literally watching her perform it live and was like, I didn't catch any of that, girl. What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's a lot of mumbling.
There's a lot of mumbling, but
Mhm.
Gaga, oh, you heard every single word. Russian roulette isn't the same without a
Yes.
gun. You know, like you could
Yeah.
hear what she was saying.
It's not
Anywho,
rushing to let.
exactly.
That's what we would have thought if she wasn't
Yeah,
pronouncing well.
exactly. So yeah, she burst out on the scene, immediately has these 5 hits, and people start
Mhm.
drawing comparisons to Madonna literally from day one because one, she's giving us a blend of like dance, music, and pop, which was very much Madonna's
Mhm.
signature. She's embracing the LGBT community, again, very much gives Madonna. And then
Mhm.
even like the kind of more outlandish costumes she would
Yes.
wear and wardrobe she would wear very much felt reminiscent of Madonna. She even wore a cone bra in
Mhm.
2009 to an award show. So, from the beginning, people were like, oh, it's giving Madonna.
Madonna 2.0. You're in a cone
Yes.
bra.
Yeah.
I remember
Yes,
that.
exactly. And the thing is, like, I feel like the comparisons, they made sense.
Yeah.
And even Gaga said multiple times and in multiple interviews, she counts Madonna as an influence and,
Mhm.
feels like Madonna paved the way in a lot of ways, not just for her, but for other pop artists and particularly women pop artists. Like Gaga went on record and said that many times. So I think there's nothing wrong with being inspired by, being
For sure.
influenced by someone, particularly someone who's had such a huge career. And I will just note, obviously by the time we get to '08 when Gaga debuts, Madonna is already Madonna at this point. Like she's been in the
Right.
industry for
Yeah.
30 years.
A long
Um,
time.
some of her stats, just so people know how big Madonna is, she has
Mhm.
sold over 300 million records worldwide, making her the best selling female recording artist of all time.
Mhm.
She is the most successful solo artist in the history of the US Billboard Hot 100 chart and has achieved 44 number one singles between the major global music markets. She also became the first ever woman to accumulate $1 billion in concert revenue. And Forbes named her the world's highest paid female musician 11
Wow.
times across 4 separate decades from the 1980s to the 2010s. So, like, Madonna is
Yeah.
clearly Madonna,
Madonna was and arguably is still the it girl.
the it girl,
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
And that's even despite some of her, faux pas, some of
Mhm.
her flop songs, some of her,
Yeah.
like she's had
Mhm.
she hasn't released a super, I would call it, influential, impact making single in, you know, over a decade.
Yeah. And she
But
doesn't have to.
And she doesn't have to. Exactly. She
Yeah.
doesn't have to because she's
Mm.
Madonna and she's already done
Right.
it 40 times
Yeah.
over. And when you have that type of career and that type of legacy, you can
Yeah.
essentially do what you want. And she was on tour literally this year, her celebration tour, which
Mhm.
was sold out all over the globe. So Madonna is Madonna, period.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I would think with the way Madonna's attitude is that she probably is like, I paved the way for Lady Gaga, and there would be no Lady Gaga if there wasn't Madonna first.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
'Cause
sure she
that's her
feels that way.
vibe. That is
that
Madonna's
is
vibe.
That is very much her vibe. But I will
Mhm.
say, we really don't hear, even though we're hearing all these comparisons, every
Mhm.
article in the media, fans, whatever, are drawing comparisons between the two of them. We don't hear the two of them directly say anything, I would call it more negative or shady,
Mhm.
until Lady Gaga releases Born This Way. Now, do you remember this single?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Okay. And
Baby,
it
I
goes
was
to number
born
one.
this way.
Yes, it's a
Mhm.
big, big single. But do you remember which Madonna song they said it sounded like?
No, because I can only hear the Lady Gaga song in my head.
Yeah.
But I remember it. I just can't
Yes.
think what it is.
Okay. So
Mhm.
Madonna's song Express Yourself.
Yeah, it's expression. Express yourself.
Uh huh. And people immediately picked up on the similarity. So we're going to listen to both. And
Yeah.
then you tell me if you think these two songs are similar. Okay, so now that you've heard them both back to back, what say you?
That's the exact same song. No.
It's
The tune is almost identical.
almost
Even in the
identical.
beginning with the little, like, drum before the music drops. Now, obviously, Lady Gaga's a little bit more, like, electronic dance type vibe, but, I mean,
No,
obviously, the words are different, but it sounds the same.
it sounds the same. Literally, as Born This Way was coming in, that intro, all I could think was, dun, dun, express
Yeah, me
yourself.
too. I was thinking it.
That's
Totally.
all I could think. And
Same.
then, yeah, even while Express Yourself was playing, all I could think was, I'm beautiful in this way, because God made no mistake. So
Yeah.
I mean, there is no denying that those songs, they sound the same, just with different lyrics.
Yeah, it's like they took the script on how the Madonna song was made, and then they just made another song with the same script.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
Formula,
okay.
whatever you want to call it.
And this is where things take a turn in their relationship, because up until now, first of all, you really didn't hear Madonna saying anything about the comparisons, and the only thing you heard Gaga saying was basically like how amazing Madonna is and how she's so inspired by her and, so flattered that anyone would think of her in the same conversation. Like she was being very, very
complimentary,
effusive and complimentary. Okay, well, that ends here because it doesn't fully end, but things definitely take a turn at this point.
We can't have nice things.
Because now, first of all, when everyone starts saying these songs are the same, Gaga says at one point she actually got an email from Madonna's people saying that they supported the song. But then a representative for Madonna was asked by ABC News, hey, did her team send this note? And that representative said she was unaware of any such email. And so then, yes, and this was while they were doing an interview with Madonna in January 2012, which would have been almost a year after this song came out. So the song came out February 2011. In January 2012, Madonna did an interview with ABC where they asked her specifically about whether they felt like Gaga was copying her. And this is what Madonna said. First, she called. Well, she started by calling Gaga a very talented artist and said she admired her songwriting. But then she says, I certainly think she references me a lot in her work. And sometimes I think it's amusing and flattering and well done. Then she continues, Gaga's work appears to be a statement about taking something that was in the zeitgeist, 20 years ago, and turning it inside out and reinterpreting it. So basically saying like, this is Gaga's MO. She takes what's already been done and then basically re-examines it, reinterprets it. And then she continues, there's a lot of ways to look at it. I can't really be annoyed by it because obviously I've influenced her. But when I heard it on the radio, I said, that sounds very familiar. And so, actually, and she continues. I forgot.
Of course she does.
I forgot. This is how she ends it, because after she says, when I heard it on the radio and I said, that sounds very familiar, the interview pressed her and was like, well, is that annoying to you that the song sounds so much like your song? And Madonna responded, it felt reductive.
I was going to say, she's going to say yes.
Yeah. So that happens in 2012. Well, Gaga says about the song, if you put the songs next to each other, side by side, the only similarities are the chord progression. It's the same one that's been in disco music for the last 50 years. Just because I'm the first fucking artist in 25 years to think of putting it on top 40 radio, it doesn't mean I'm a plagiarist. It means that I'm fucking smart. Sorry.
She's not wrong.
Well, yeah,
that was her basically saying, yeah, I actually do take old music and like reinvent it, right?
Right. And the thing is, that's a common practice in the music industry, sampling, interpolating, like, taking sounds that we've sort of heard. I think, however, what it sounds like is she did this used this quote unquote same chord progression, but didn't give any credit to Madonna's original song, which is
Yeah.
very different from, like, again, to reference Beyonce, she credits everybody.
Everyone. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
songwriter, everyone who
Mhm.
played a tambourine on the original song gets a credit. So I think in this particular instance, there was a little bit of, well, we all have ears. We all hear the
Mhm.
similarities.
Yeah.
So is it as simple as, oh, I just used the progression everyone in disco was using? Was everyone in disco using it?
I don't feel like they were. I feel
I
like
don't
I don't
know.
know. When I think of Madonna and I think of Madonna's music, I think of like Madonna had so many like firsts. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was the first woman to do a lot of the things that she did. She was super outspoken. Go back and look at like tons of interviews of Madonna. She's always been a shade thrower. so so when I like think about Lady Gaga, it does kind of feel like she may have like taken Madonna's hits and a little bit reinvented them.
A little bit, which
Mhm.
I think, yeah, is common practice.
Mhm.
I can understand both of their perspectives. Gaga's in feeling like, look, I'm an artist and my art is informed by prior art. And just like Madonna's art was informed by prior art, like
Right.
we all exist in a continuum. Like, I'm not doing anything shady or whatever. I definitely understand that perspective. I also understand Madonna's perspective, because when you hear those two songs, they sound, I mean, extremely similar. There's quite simply
Yeah.
no denying it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't hear Born This Way and think like, oh, this sounds like 50 years of disco music. And it does
No.
not.
No, never. That's so
It
funny.
sounds like one very specific song that we all
For
know
sure.
very well and that
Mhm.
topped the charts in the 80s. Like, so
Yeah.
I I understand both of their points. So they both go on record saying this in like 2011, 2012. But then the kicker for me was, and I don't know if you remember this because I had completely forgot, Madonna goes on tour in 2012, and
Mhm.
when she sings Express Yourself, she
Mhm.
mashes it up with Born This Way.
Oh, no, no, I didn't know any of that.
Yes, she does. And she ends the song by singing, "She's not me." Do, do, do,
Oh,
do, bum, bum, bum.
no.
Yes, she's not me. That's how she ends the song.
Is that on YouTube somewhere? Like, I must
Yes, it
must see
is.
that.
It is
Oh
absolutely
my
on
gosh,
YouTube.
no way.
So I didn't know that Madonna really felt that type of way about it, to be mashing it up on tour and talking about "She's Not Me" on tour. But yes, she did 100%.
Mm. Madonna's always been really like self-confident, but I think in her older age, I'm not quite even sure how old she is at this point, but in her older age, I feel like she's become like I don't want to say a word that's going to make everyone drag me on the internet, but a little cocky, like, a little
Mm,
arrogant.
hmm.
And so I could see her just being like trying to knock people down a peg. And so that's very on brand for her.
It does give that vibe, but at the same time, I feel
How
like
could you not be arrogant? You're
I
Madonna.
you're Madonna,
It's like Mariah
you've
Carey.
exactly. You're Madonna, you've done it all. You've broken every record, you've topped every chart, you've won every award, you've toured every
Mhm.
country, and this song does sound like an exact replica of your
Yeah,
song.
and it feels like a steal.
I can definitely understand her being salty. Seems like she's salty. So that happens in 2012, right? She goes on tour and, basically shades her by saying she's not me. So then in 2015, and while this is happening, mind you, this Born This Way, Express Yourself conversation,
Mhm.
Madonna goes on tour, does this, sings the mashup. A lot of the articles coming out and a lot of fans tweeting about it and everything else are sticking up for Gaga, because at this point, Gaga has a huge career. She's on her
Right.
second album. She's had all these hits. So, and a lot of her fans are young and on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, probably a lot of people weren't there for the Madonna come up, and so I could see that.
Yeah. And so her
Yeah.
fans are really taking up for her
Mhm,
and really going hard against Madonna. So in 2015, now we fast forward a few years,
mhm,
Madonna's doing an interview with Rolling Stone, and the Gaga conversation comes up and sort of like how much heat she took for it. And so she defends herself and says, "The only time I ever criticized Lady Gaga was when I felt like she blatantly ripped off one of my songs. It's got nothing to do with she's taking my crown or she's in some space of mine. She has her thing." Right. So that was her essentially saying, like, I never came for Gaga before that. And
mhm.
really, my only criticism was this was a blatant rip off of my song. Okay, well, Gaga
Copy
didn't.
me, bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm mad.
Right. Well, Gaga did not like that. Okay, so because she does an interview on 2016, a radio interview, and she says, I wouldn't. Oh, the person asks her about like the comparison with Madonna and what Madonna had to say about, her ripping off her song. She says, I wouldn't make that comparison at all. And I don't mean to disrespect Madonna. She's a nice lady and she's had a fantastic, huge career, biggest pop star of all time. But I play a lot of instruments. I write all my own music. I spend hours a day in the studio. I'm a producer. I'm a writer. What I do is different.
Okay, that's the interview that I saw. That's like one of the
Mhm.
only ones that I saw. And what a dig. I was
What a dig.
it was like, girl, you get up and sing to a bunch of music and maybe you lip sync sometimes, but I do everything.
That's okay. Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly how it read to me. Because particularly because she sandwiched all of the things about I do this, that, this, that, and the third. She says we're different, right? Like, so she sets it up by saying there's no comparison. She's a nice lady and she's had this big career, but I play instruments. I write my own music. I spend hours a day in the studio. I'm a producer. I'm a writer. Right. What I do is different. As if Madonna doesn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
And that to me is where it really felt like a dig, because Madonna is credited as a songwriter on many of her songs. Mm-hmm. Clearly, she also has to spend a lot of time in the studio to get an album done.
Right.
Like she writes, so maybe she doesn't play a bunch of instruments. And I'm not saying the two of them are the same, but it did to me very much feel like she was essentially saying Madonna doesn't do any of these things that I do.
Yeah, it was a huge dig. It was like, is she an artist? Because does she play the piano?
Yeah, I personally, if it were me, could see myself taking a little bit of offense to that. And then she did another interview in the same year, Gaga, and she says, I have to be really honest. At this point, she's talking about the fact that Madonna performed Born This Way on tour as a mashup. So Gaga says,
I have the mashup.
Mm-hmm. She says, I have to be really honest. I was completely kind of floored that Madonna was singing my song on her stage every night. All it meant to me was that Madonna was singing my song on her stage, and I'm 27. And as a punk rocker from New York, I've basically been hoping that I would become so good that one day I would piss off Madonna.
What a weird thing to say. Am I crazy?
I agree. And Madonna's fans went berserk after that quote, because they had just, they had taken all this flack. People saying Madonna is, jealous and Madonna's trying to tear down another woman and blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, Gaga's like, I've been hoping that I would piss Madonna off, and now I have. Like,
that's crazy behavior.
Yeah, I had never heard that quote, so that one had missed me, and yeah, I was taken aback by it.
Wow. Have you ever seen, like slightly off topic, but about Lady Gaga, where she's walking up to get the award and Leonardo DiCaprio makes that like face at her and it became like this huge meme?
No, I never saw that.
Look that up sometime, because I always am like, what's that beef about? Because I feel like Lady Gaga has pissed people off in the industry before. Like, I feel like that's her vibe sometimes. Well, and I like her. Like,
right. Yeah, I will say, I remember one time she pissed off Beyonce fans because she this was when Beyonce dropped her self-titled album, and as some people might recall, Beyonce had basically taken some time off. She had a baby. We hadn't heard from her in a while after her fourth album. And then she dropped self-titled, as we spoke about, in the dead of night. No warning, right? So no one knew it was coming. Yeah. And then celebrities, of course, react. I remember everybody was jumping on Twitter to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God, I'm going to be up all night listening to Beyonce, blah, 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 blah. But Gaga's tweet said, welcome back, honeybee. And a lot of people took that as like, what do you mean welcome back? Like,
yeah, like you're like, she hasn't been around.
Right. And a lot of people interpreted it shadily. Now, to Gaga's credit, I don't think she meant it intentionally to be shady, but to a lot of people, it felt shady. So to your point, I do think various fandoms have at time had beef with Gaga and
Yeah,
maybe various people. I don't know that there's any reason for it, any rhyme or
yeah.
reason for it,
I think
but
she speaks her mind a lot, and I think
mhm,
not everyone's always used to hearing a woman speak their mind. I think that's
mhm,
Madonna has that in common with her,
yeah.
and I think that rubs people the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Because you know what? It's funny because as important to me as sort of the project of this podcast is, which
Mhm,
is disrupting the narrative that women have to be pitted against one another. And I've said this before to some degree on prior episodes. I don't think that means that women can't be in competition with one another. And
mhm.
I don't think that means that women have to always be friends with one another, always speak highly of one another. Like we're still people, right? So
Yeah,
I don't think disrupting that narrative means that like everything Madonna ever says about Gaga has to be warm and flowery and bubbly and supportive or vice versa.
mhm,
But I do think like we as like people, the public, the media, which I guess you and I kind of sort of are a part of,
mhm.
I do think like it serves us well to look at when this narrative is happening of saying like, oh, this person hates this person or this person's mad at this person, to kind of just like dig in a little and just examine like, well, is it true? Do they really have beef? Are they really upset with one another? Or
Mhm.
is this just something that people feel like they can profit off by forwarding that story? Because
Totally.
even this beef that they did clearly have, like Madonna did say she felt Gaga was reductive. Gaga did say, I actually write my own music. So there clearly was some
Yeah.
some
Some real
shade.
beef, yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of beef and a little bit of shade. Even
Mhm.
that to me feels mostly petty. Right? No one's
Yeah.
no one's really losing that much sleep. No one's losing opportunities. Like,
Also, it does kind of feel like the beef is only in the media. Like, it almost doesn't feel like there's beef behind the scenes where they're like necessarily like calling each other up or sending each other nasty text messages. That doesn't feel like it's happening.
yeah.
It's like a media beef.
Yeah, it's a media beef. And which I think like I get it. It makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
But I also feel like and in some ways, and now this is sort of getting into queens helping queens, in some ways it helps both of them, right? Because it keeps both of their names in the press
Right.
when one of them shades the other. And it's funny because like it seemed like all of this had been squashed because in 2019 Gaga went to Madonna's Oscar party and
Mhm.
there were headlines about this. Like people were like,
Okay.
"Oh,
Yeah.
the beef is over. Gaga attends
Oh,
Madonna's."
wow. I can't believe she was invited.
Yeah, so people were like,
Mhm.
"All is right in the world." But
Mhm.
then I don't know if you saw this, but earlier this year, while Madonna was on tour, she
Mhm.
kind of shaded Gaga again.
What'd
Yeah,
she
I had missed
say?
this because so what happened was
Mhm.
she was doing her concert in Toronto, but when she comes out she says, "What's up Boston?" and like forgets where she is, which you know, she's traveling all over the world, fine.
Right.
But then later she apologizes and she says, "I'm sorry. Did it piss you off when I called you Boston?" She's like, "I know that was fucked up. That'd be like if you said you were coming to see Lady Gaga in concert." So
Have you ever caught one of Madonna's live streams on TikTok?
no, I haven't. I
Oh,
didn't even know she does live streams on TikTok.
she used to. I don't know if she still does. And I used to catch her on a live stream all
No.
the time.
Oh my
Okay.
God. No,
And
never.
this new era of Madonna is very chaotic. Chaotic is like the nicest way I can put it without accusing
Uh-huh.
her of doing things. But let's just say this. She may or may not have brought something into the live stream and smelled it and then put it back. And then maybe or maybe not, people in the live stream were like, "Did you just do poppers on on screen?" So I think there might be something going on there, and that might and we're deflecting with the Gaga comment because we are
Hmm.
chaotic in this moment of our life. I know that she'll always be iconic Madonna, and that's we're never going to take that away from her,
Mm-hmm.
but I think maybe we need to settle down a tad sometimes. Well, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. No, I certainly did not know that. I did not know she was
Mhm.
going live on TikTok. I didn't know any of the
Yeah.
accusations about
The
poppers.
lives were Very creative.
Okay.
Oh,
Everybody's so creative.
so creative.
Yeah, no, I definitely did not know that. But yeah, seeing that she kind of made that comment on
Mhm.
her tour basically just let me know that it's like the beef is not that pronounced, but it feels like maybe it's also not fully dead, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
I
always
would
a little
say
bit in
the
there.
last couple years, she's gotten a lot of heat on the internet. And I think also, again, a lot of the people on the internet are younger. I feel like they don't really understand like Madonna and who she's been this whole time. But she's gotten a lot of heat for plastic surgery, that thing on a live stream and, some other stuff on the internet. So I think maybe there's less beef and more like distraction. Don't talk about my face anymore. Talk about this feud I have with Gaga. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, interesting. Well, in that case, I mean, I think that
Mhm.
underscores the first point I was going to make and how these two women help each other, which is keeping their name in the press. Because
Mhm.
whether Madonna wants that simply because she wants a distraction
Mhm.
or because she just, she's a celebrity and celebrities like to be in the press.
For sure.
Either way, I do think having this as sort of a go-to that they can both return to, doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you want a press hit, Madonna knows if I mention Gaga, it'll show up in the press. Gaga knows if I mention Madonna, it'll be in the press.
For sure.
Might as well have it in your back pocket, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah. And Madonna's not, like, coming out with a new album anytime soon, I don't think so, and probably hasn't in a while, right?
yeah.
So, she might need a little bump in the media every now and again.
She just might. And you know
Yeah.
what? I'm not mad at figuring out the PR game, figuring
Mhm.
out like, oh, this is something that works for me that's going to keep my name in the press. If it works for you, it works for you. I'm not
Yeah.
mad at that. The other thing I would say though, in terms of how I think these two really help each other,
Mhm.
is I think for Gaga, clearly she's been helped by Madonna's career. Like I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
Madonna obviously paved the way in, this blend of like dance, electronica, pop music, and also in breaking barriers, being so outspoken and
Mhm.
supportive of the LGBT community. Like I feel like she sort of created a mold
Mhm.
and uh gave that mold to future pop stars, including Gaga, and like kind of
Yeah.
paved the way a little bit. But for Madonna, I feel like the fact that Gaga walked down that path and has sort of kept up the tradition of this like rebellious pop star and like
Mhm.
the dance pop music and everything else, I think that helps Madonna because it keeps the door open for her to keep going back on tour, to keep entering the
Mhm.
conversation. It keeps her music relevant so that when we go back and listen to an Express Yourself or a Vogue or a Like a Prayer, it still sounds relevant to this day because we're still hearing
Totally.
reminiscent of those sounds today. Like I think having artists who continue on in your legacy helps you stay relevant. So I think
Yeah.
they definitely both have helped each other and continue to help one another.
For sure. They both have that, like, defiant woman kind of vibe, like, if you ever watch them get interviewed by people and stuff like that, they're not just like, "Haha, yeah," like, keeping up that nice woman narrative, like, they're pointed in everything they say, and I
Yeah.
really feel like Madonna paved the way for a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, Gaga has said as much. I don't know
Mhm.
if she'd be
Yeah,
quite
she
as
tried to be
complimentary
nice about it.
today.
She tried to be nice about it for so long until she
For
couldn't.
yeah, she but the things that she said I think were true about
Yeah,
being influenced by Madonna,
for sure.
and about Madonna paving that path. So yeah, it's one of those things where like, will they ever be besties? It seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But is even the little bit of a beef that seems to exist, is it that big of a deal? It feels like no, it's
Yeah,
not.
it doesn't. It feels like media beef.
Yeah,
It's not real life.
it's not real life. And they both have fantastic music, fantastic
They do.
legacies. Like they're set, they're good.
Yes. That's it for this week, everyone. Be sure to follow us on TikTok at Two Queens, Two Crowns, and to check out the podcast on YouTube, Two Queens, Two Crowns.
Erica and I would also love for you to follow us on our personal socials. For as long as TikTok is around, I'm on TikTok at IM_KJ Miller and YouTube with the handle I am KJ Miller. And Erica's on IG at Letta Bino and TikTok at Letta Bitchno. We'll see you next week.
Bye.